Why do we have eyelashes?
And why do we have pupils?
Does the eye work like a camera?
Today we are going to build an eye to understand how it works.
And yes, you can do it at home. And it's a really cool project to present at the science. Materials are really simple. You can find them at the stationery store around the corner. The first thing, and the most important of all, is the outer shell of the eye. What is it going to be made of?
Styrofoam. A styrofoam ball about 20 to 25 centimeters in diameter.
You'll also need a watch glass, which is that piece of lab glassware you can easily buy online. Just do a quick search.
A magnifying glass lens, like the ones we use at school.
An iris drawing. In this case, we printed one from the internet, but you can draw it with colored pencils if you can't find one to print.
Eva foam. We picked two colors here, black and beige.
Paint to make a pinkish color, like the color of a tongue.
Toilet paper roll.
Piece of cardboard.
And modeling clay in two colors, one red and one blue.
It's very likely that we forgot to list something, but the list is down here in the video description, okay? Otherwise, we'll just keep rambling here. Let's start building this thing. The first thing I'm going to do is cut out this iris. Since I suspect it's not a perfect circle, I'm going to use a compass to make the edge here. The second step is to mark the size of the iris here on the styrofoam ball. And here's an important detail. Its center has to be right on the dividing line between the two plates. Because in the end, we're going to have an eye that opens, an eye that you can see inside. The idea isn't just to make the eye from the front, not just the outside. This is an anatomical model, a mock-up. Next, I'm going to mark the watch glass. It has to be well aligned with the circle I just made, okay? Or with the circumference I just made. This time, I'm not going to use a pen because I don't want it to leave a mark. You'll understand why in a moment. The first step is going to be removing the inner part. Removing the part that corresponds to the iris. Look, a tip if you're going to use a utility knife is to break off the tip of the blade. The back part already has a notch for that, okay? That way it gets really sharp. How did you used to break it? With your hand?
Yeah, actually it's like this. I think I've never used a utility knife so much that I had to keep breaking it.
Here at Manual de Mundo, we break it every 3 days. Look, a tip for throwing away this little tip is to put it on masking tape. Okay, otherwise you could hurt someone. Throwing this in the trash without protection isn't cool.
While Ibere is making our styrofoam ball here, I'm going to prepare our pupil, which is that little black ball we have in our eye, which actually isn't a black ball, it's just a hole. So I'm going to cut it to make a hole here too. And so to keep it from being super flimsy, just a sheet of paper, we're going to glue it onto a piece of styrofoam that's shaped like the iris, so it'll be more resistant.
That's cardboard, Fernies.
Cardboard.
Just so I'm not unfair to Fernanda, I also make these mistakes, but we just edit them out in the polishing stage. And now comes a more handcrafted part of the process here. I'll have to make a kind of step to fit the watch glass. I'll have to carve a notch, a little step here. This is the part that will require the most manual skill, okay? And if you're a kid, you need to ask an adult for help. If you're an adult, ask a kid for help, because we know adults are the ones who mess things up. The styrofoam is going to get all crumbly. So you'll have to use a technique here that you need to do very carefully. Here at Manual de Mundo, we had a knife that was used only for this kind of plastic melting stuff. Now I found out they've already taken another knife just for that. But anyway, at your house, set aside an old knife that nobody wants anymore, so you can burn and melt plastic because you can't use a kitchen knife. It will never go back to normal, okay? So what's the idea here? I'm gonna heat the knife with the lighter, but I won't heat it too much, just a little. But I don't want that soot to get on the styrofoam. Ideally, you should clean it first so you don't get the styrofoam dirty. Look how nice that is. The watch glass is already fitting perfectly here on top of the bevel I made. It looks like it's part of the sphere, see? The question is, does this really exist in our eye? Do we have some kind of glass in front of everything?
Yes, we do. Of course, it's not actually glass, but we have a lens that sits here on the outer part of our eye. And it's very important to help focus our vision. It bends the light rays and helps us see much more clearly. Its name is the cornea.
I don't know if you know, but I have a problem with my cornea. My cornea is pointed. It's a condition called keratoconus. Because the cornea has a cone shape, it's distorted. So I see everything kind of doubled. When I look toward a light, for example, movie subtitles are really hard to see. If this problem were very serious, if it were more severe, I would have to get a cornea transplant. And then you take the cornea from someone who has already passed away and put it in place of mine. In my case, I don't have such a serious problem. I didn't need to get a cornea transplant, but a lot of people do it in Brazil.
Even people who have, for example, higher degrees of myopia end up having cornea surgery as well.
Yeah, because since it's like a lens, if it's too crooked, it's going to cause problems, right? But it's also a protective layer for the eye, right? The first thing that's there is the eye's first line of defense.
And it's very sensitive. Anything that touches the cornea already bothers you. So if something gets in your eye, it already starts to bother you, right?
I'm going to cut out the iris here, which is already glued to a piece of cardboard. This here is an important part of the eye. In fact, there's a controversy, because once I said in a video that the pupil, which is that black dot we have in the middle of the eye, doesn't actually exist. Because it really doesn't.
It's just a hole. And why do we have this hole in the middle of the iris? The iris controls the amount of light that enters your eye. For us to see, we need light to enter the eye. If the iris makes this little hole smaller, less light will enter. If it makes it bigger, more light will enter. So for example, if you are in a dark environment with little lighting, it will open up so you can make the most of the little light that's in the environment. And if you are in a very dark place and suddenly a very bright light turns on, your eyes will hurt because you're not supposed to receive that much light. And then it will start to narrow the opening, but it doesn't happen instantly. That's why sometimes when the light turns on very quickly and very brightly, your eyes hurt and you close them. And it takes a little while for you to get used to it. But eventually, it will decrease and become more comfortable.
Shall we see this happen in practice? Let's do it. Who's going to get the light in the face, me or you? It's up to you.
I think it'll be more visible on me.
I don't know. I think it'll be more visible. Your eyes are much lighter. So, look, Fernanda will be the guinea pig. I think Fernanda doesn't know this new toy from Manuel de Mundo yet.
Because he told me we're going to look at it under the microscope. I said, huh? But how? Are we going to keep our heads down like this?
You're going to keep your head under the microscope. Because with this one, look, I can see your eye really close up. Lower yourself a little more. Yeah, that's it. Stay still. Let's put some support under your face. So you can rest your chin here, just like in the... Okay.
Just like at the ophthalmologist.
Yeah, just like at the ophthalmologist. Otherwise, you'll move your head. The Manuel de Mundo books have a lot of uses, huh? One of them could be this. Let's go. Wow. Look, it's starting to grow again. And now it's going to shrink. It's going to grow again. It's going to shrink. Very good, right? Good. Look, I'm taking a picture here. Not for nothing, but I think Fernanda printed out a picture of her own eye. Was that a picture of your eye? Was it really yours?
No.
Of course it wasn't. No. It's very similar to what we printed. The camera has exactly the same thing that we just saw in Fernanda's eye here, okay? In fact, we also call it the iris or diaphragm in the camera. So if I hold it up to the light, I can see the lens opening and close it. And we use this to let more or less light into the camera as needed. Thinking about our model here, I'll have to adjust this hole now to fit the iris perfectly inside. Because the idea is that it can be taken apart later. The styrofoam needs a neater finish. It didn't get hot enough, right? This is a bit slow here. Let's speed it up. It worked, right? It did. It did. There's very little left. I think it's good. It's good, right? It's good. It's good. How nice. We have the cornea, iris, and pupil. I need to glue the watch glass here, which is our cornea. But I'm only going to glue it on half of the ball, okay? Because I need to be able to open the other half to show the inside of the eye. I'm going to use hot glue, and it's pretty dangerous because it can melt the styrofoam. So first, I'm going to test it on a leftover piece of styrofoam to see if it's not too hot and won't eat through the styrofoam. And I think in this case, it is. Ideally, we should use just a little bit of glue. Look, when it forms this bubble inside, it's too hot. You have to be really careful with this because if you touch this glue, you're going to get hurt. It happened to me once. I squeezed out a bunch and put my arm on top of it. I had a scar for 3 years. Now, with just this little bit left, it's fine, see? Much cooler. How nice. It's starting to look like an eye.
Now we're going to paint inside the eye and then we'll put together the rest.
The part we're going to do now is the retina, which is the back of our eye inside the eye. I don't know exactly what the exact color is, but there are factors that can give us some clues. Have you ever seen those photos taken with a flash where the person's eyes look red? That's because the retina, the back part of the eye, is showing it was illuminated. That means it's reddish, that it has a lot of blood vessels there, and that makes it really red. So I'm making it like this, a slightly lighter red, so it doesn't end up being that bright red either. I'm being careful not to go beyond these.
Little edges here that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm not going up onto the horizontal part here. This part where the two balls fit together, I'm going to paint it brown here, as if it were skin or our flesh, just to represent something and not leave it white. Jansen corrected me here because I said 2 balls. but actually they're two half balls. So the right thing would be to say two hemispheres, which is half of a sphere. By the way, that's why we call it the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere, because it's half of the sphere that is planet Earth. The next spherical structure we're going to have in the eye is actually a kind of lens. So for that, we're going to use the magnifying glass lens. I'm using a really big lens here, but you can make a smaller one for your model, because it doesn't need to be this size, you'll see. You'll need to make some kind of support for the lens to put it inside the eye, because it doesn't just stay loose in there.
So notice that we have two lenses in our eye, the cornea, which we talked about before, and this one here, which is actually inside the eye. The other one is on the outside part, and the name of this one is the crystalline lens.
What's the rule here? The inner circle has to be much smaller than the lens, and the outer circle has to be much larger than the lens. Leave about 2 centimeters. It has to be bigger than the iris, because later we're going to fit this behind the iris. And I drew a line in the middle here that doesn't do anything. Look at the sequence. The first piece of EVA foam is smaller. Then there are 2 others around the lens just to add volume, and another piece of EVA foam the same size as the first one. We have a kind of little pouch with the lens inside.
You could glue it with hot glue, but that wouldn't be ideal, okay?
So I'm going to use super glue here, which for me works best for gluing EVA. It's a lens burger.
And this lens here, it's a flexible lens. So if you need to focus on an object that's closer to you, it gets thicker. And if you want to focus on something that's farther away, it gets flatter and longer.
In a real camera, this also exists. But the lens isn't soft, it's made of glass. So what we have in this lens assembly, right, which is a set of lenses, is that the lens moves forward and backward as you adjust the focus. With this camera here, you can really notice the movement. Look.
Do you know who else is like that? I'll show you.
Fernanda. She's been waiting for this moment the whole video, because Fernanda is a biologist. In fact, some people think she's an intern, but she's not an intern. She graduated about 15 years ago, more or less. What she really wants is to do what she loves most, which is dissecting animals. So I brought a fish head here today.
Bought at the market, okay?
But Fernanda, that's gross. And are you really going to show a fish head in the video?
Hey, you're being squeamish, but there are people who eat this. Some people even eat the eyes actually. We bought it for 8 reais per kilo at the market.
The smell is kind of strong.
Put on a glove, right? So you don't end up smelling like fish forever.
Wow, yeah. My dad's friend said that one of the signs of a fresh fish is that the eye is really clear. So you look at the fish's eye and it's still nice. That one, my friend, is not really the case with this fish.
But are you going to eat it?
No, actually, I want to get rid of this as soon as possible. So take its eye out so we can keep going. Wow, the whole eyeball comes out, yeah. You can really tell that the eye is a separate organ. When you look at it, you get the impression that it's just part of the head as a whole. But no, right? It's actually a separate little ball, just like we're putting it together here. This thing is about to pop out. I don't usually get grossed out by anything, but smelly stuff gets to me. So this fish is a bit off, just saying.
Even though the fish's eye isn't identical to ours, it has a lot of similar structures. And I'm going to open up the eye so you can see the lens inside, which is the crystalline lens.
Wow. Your hand is really gross to show in video. Come on, let's clean all this up, right? Show it to people properly, okay? Some people watch this while having lunch. Sure, some people like to eat fish and all. I like fish, but not with that smell.
This here is our lens, but now I have a real lens here.
Shall we look under the microscope? Look, this is the light from below only. Ah.
Now you can see better that it's transparent, right?
Yeah, I think this fish had myopia, astigmatism, something like that, you know? Because it's not really transparent anymore, right?
No, but when our lens loses that transparency, when it becomes more opaque, do you know what we have?
Cataract. Cataract, is that it? Yes. And then, does cataract surgery remove the lens? Yes, it does.
They put in another one.
Do they put something like glass in its place?
I don't know what the material is, but they put in another one. It's like a cornea transplant. Yeah, not the cornea, the lens.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. This one is already... So this fish has cataracts, right? It's already dead, right? Yeah, no, never. Well, this goes behind the iris, given the structure of the eye. We're not sure if we should glue it or use a pin to hold it in place. After all, with the styrofoam, we can use a pin. I'm putting it in at a diagonal here, so there's some space left. It's not super well attached, but it's a model, right? So it needs to allow for that. Ah. Bye.
Is everything in order, huh?
Everything's in order. Everything survived.
Okay, So now we have to make the hole for the optic nerve.
Exactly. How does the eye see and how does it send information to the brain? Through a kind of communication cable, which is the optic nerve. There are several neurons there. And now we're going to put this part of the eye in.
But before that, shall we talk about the retina?
Let's talk about the retina, or about our eye's sensor, which is this part that's painted orange here. Because just like a camera, the eye also has a sensor at the back.
So how does it work here? The light will pass through a lens, enter through the pupil and pass through another lens. These lenses will help to focus. And then the light will reach this reddish orange part, which is the retina. Here in the retina, we have two types of light receptors. Here in the more central part of the retina, we have a type of receptor called a cone. They are the ones that perceive colors and they work better in the morning when there is plenty of light. And farther out here, away from the center, we have another type of receptor, which are the rods. So they perceive more light and dark, they don't perceive color, and they work very well at night because they are very sensitive to light. So even with very little light, they will notice things. Not with colors, but you will notice that there is something passing by. And they are also responsible for seeing what is on our side. Not exactly in front of us, that's what we call peripheral vision. So,
because of everything Fernanda said, it means that when there is very little light, we can't see colors well. And we also can't see the colors of things well that are here, kind of outside the center of our eye, in our peripheral vision. So there's an experiment you can do to prove that a person can't see colors properly. You tell me when you stop seeing my hand. Not here, not here. Okay, so this is your limit, yes. What are these three colors that I have here in my hand?
I have no idea.
Really?
There's orange, but I only see orange, but I don't know what.
Color. You still can't see the color? No. Here? You can look, go ahead.
Look, these are the colors I picked out for him.
Okay, I don't see anything. Okay. So? I don't know. I have no idea. It looks like there's a light blue one that's closer to me. Is that it?
There's a lighter one. It's not exactly closer to you, but there is a lighter one.
Wow, I know there's something there in the world. I don't know. For me, it's still black and white. I have no idea. Okay, here I notice it's turquoise.
That's it. There is, but there are three colors here.
Yeah, the others I'd guess are beige, something like that.
You can look. Green, beige, and blue.
Wow, the green. I didn't notice the green at all. Guys,
We are not lying.
I noticed the blue more easily. Try this experiment at home. You'll see that your peripheral vision really can't see color. You can tell the object is there, you can even see its shape, but you can't see the color. Very cool. Look, the optic nerve isn't exactly in the middle of the eye, right at the back. It's a little off to the side, which is where I'm going to put it here. Because exactly at the point where it connects to the retina, it creates a blind spot. That means you can't see in that spot. And if it were right in the middle of the eye, our vision would be worse. So it's already off to the side.
When the image forms here on the retina, it's upside down. So what happens then? These cells here in the retina will turn that image into electrical impulses. And they will send these electrical impulses through the optic nerve, which is what Iberi is going to do here now, to our brain. And then our brain will flip this image right side up.
To illustrate what Fernanda is talking about, we've prepared an experiment here that you can also do at home. It's very simple. It's a pinhole camera. Basically, inside here we have a tomato paste can where we made a very tiny hole in the bottom. And on the opening of the can, we glued a sheet of tracing paper. It's at the far end. Then we put a black cardboard tube around it, so everything stays dark and it's easier to see. So basically, here we have a can with a hole in the bottom, a sheet of tracing paper, and the tube. That's what's drawn on the board, okay? When you look inside the tube, it projects the image that's in front onto the tracing paper. It's kind of hard to see here inside the studio because we don't have much light. But I think my phone will still be able to see it because only a little bit of light gets in through the hole. This here is our main light. It has this honeycomb in front. Back there we have a hair light. Look, there are these lamps hanging here. Over there we have another lamp. The problem is that with these lights, we can't see that the image is upside down. Now it's raining. I can't make the image outside, but yesterday I recorded Fernanda and you'll see. She appears completely upside down. Look, I just found out that with really strong lighting, it actually works. It's not that easy to see the image, but it's there, look. Fernanda, move around because you're too still in the image. Say hi. Hi. Why does this happen? This is her, okay? When the light rays pass through the hole, they cross, see? And are projected in the back. So the image we're going to see here is Fernanda upside down. The same thing will happen in the eye. The hole here is the pupil. And the same thing also happens in the camera we use every day. In the camera, you also won't see the image upside down because it turns the image right side up. But if we used, for example, an old camera with photographic paper or film back here, the image would actually come out upside down. And in this big hole here, in this empty space between the lens and the retina, what do we actually have in the eye?
So actually our eye is filled with liquid. We have two types of liquid inside the eye. One of them is here in the front part of the eye, between the lenses, and it's called aqueous humor. And we have another one that is between the lens and the retina, which is actually like a gel, and it's called vitreous humor. This gel inside the eye is very important to maintain the shape of the eye. So it keeps being kind of spherical, right? And this one in the front part, which is the aqueous humor, is also important for nourishing the lenses of the eye. What usually carries nutrients to our cells? The blood vessels, right, which carry blood with nutrients. But if we had blood vessels in the lenses, they wouldn't be transparent. So this fluid will nourish them without needing blood vessels and will also help maintain this shape.
A question that always comes up for Ibere Responde is, what are those strange little things we see when we look at the sky? It looks like there's a little speck drifting down there. They're dead cells that are right in this region here in the vitreous humor. We can see them and there's no problem at all. Everyone has this.
Speaking of nourishing the cells in the eye, we also have several blood vessels here to nourish the cells in the retina. And we're going to make these vessels with modeling clay. So to make these blood vessels, we're basically making little snakes out of modeling clay. And then to roll them like this, instead of using my hand, I'm using cardboard, just so they don't get fingerprint marks.
One thing I'm already doing is putting a base on this eye, because it's hard to make it stand up. So I'm taking this little food container here, putting some hot glue on it, and I'm going to glue the bottom of the eye so it stays in an interesting position. Look, about here like this, kind of tilted upwards. Oh, Fernanda.
It won't stay up? It won't stay up.
Did you already glue it? Let me take it off before it really sticks. I'll put some weight inside here. Yeah, that could work. Lazy, huh? I'll have to get something from the back to use as a counterweight. Look at the bull.
Agora vai, agora vai.
We're going to start gluing our blood vessels in place with super glue. And why did we make them in two colors? Red and blue. The red should represent the blood that's coming with nutrients, with oxygen for the cells of the eye. And the blue are the vessels that are taking the blood away. They've already passed through the eye, they've already delivered the oxygen there, and now they're leaving the eye. So the blood here doesn't have oxygen, it has more carbon dioxide, while the blood in the red one has oxygen.
The last step here is to make the eyelid and the eyelashes. I'm going to cut the eyelid. Say it really fast. Eyelid, eyelid, eyelid.
Yeah, for the eyelid, I'm going to cut a strip of EVA about 5 centimeters wide. Go ahead, the width isn't that important. Look, I put the strip up here. I'm measuring how long it needs to be.
I already went ahead and started making some little fringes here to be the eyelashes, right? And the idea is that I lift one up and leave the other one down. Lifting one and leaving the other down, and so on. And then it would be more spaced out, right? So what we're doing now are basically parts that protect our eye. So the eyebrow, the eyelid, and the eyelashes, they all help protect our eye, which is a very sensitive organ. The eyebrow, for example, helps prevent sweat from dripping directly into your eye. The eyelashes also help keep dirt from getting into your eye, and the eyelid as well. Whenever something gets into your eye, your instinct is to close it. Not only that, the eyelid also helps to moisten the eye. Every time we close it, it helps moisten the eye and spread the tears.
And this here is our accurate model of the human eye. Fernanda and I counted here, and we have 9 different elements of the eye in the model. So the first one is the white part, which we haven't even explained, but it's the structure of the eye called the sclera. It's the part that we see as white here in our eye.
We also have the eyelid, the eyelashes, and the cornea.
Here on the inside, the iris, then the lens and the retina.
And finally, the blood vessels and the optic nerve.
And yes, the eye is very similar to a camera. We have a set of lenses here, which would be like the camera lens, with aperture adjustment. Then we have the sensor and the wire that leads to the camera's brain.
Ibere, if this isn't worth a like, I don't know what is.
Our human body activity notebook is also worth a like, which is a book we don't talk about very much, and it also has a complete drawing of the eye here. If you want to give it as a gift or learn the basics about the human body, I'm leaving the link for it down here, okay?
Do you want another really cool video that can also be useful for your science fair? We're linking a video here where we built a camera obscura with a lens, similar to the one we showed in today's video, but the image was much clearer.